Good morning. So we're up to Siman Shin Aleph Halacha Yud Gimel. Working through the halachas of Hitzah, which malbushim, which clothes you can wear. We've discussed glasses and watches, etc. Now we're moving on to some very interesting things. Yud Gimel. Lo Yetze Hazov Bekis. Azov, that means a person who has these what they call seminal emissions. He has these discharges. Bekis, which Bekis She'isalat Silai Mizivos Shleitonifba. So a man who has these zivos, he has these discharges, then he's not allowed on Shabbos to go out with some sort of pouch which is covering him, which is to protect him, that he shouldn't soil his clothes. V'chein isha nida, and so to a woman who's a nida, shekesheres beged lefoneha shelo tislach lech bedam nidusa, that she wears some sort of protective cloth, that she shouldn't soil her clothes. Asur lot says by that both of these people, the Zav and the Nida, are not allowed to go out wearing these things. Imlai yehin sinar asu kein malbush. So unless this item is considered a malbush, an item of clothing, then they're not allowed to wear it, because otherwise it's not a malbush and it's a masu, and therefore you're carrying on Shabbos. But if it's tied in order to prevent any pain for her, that the dam won't cause her pain, and she won't be distressed, then mutalot says by, then she's allowed to go out, or they're allowed to go out in it. Okay, let's see the Mishnah Berurah, and then we'll see the halacha l'maisa. Lo yetze azov, says the Mishnah Berurah Sifkot Memches, the derech hitzahu leish zebechol, because that's considered during the week a way of carrying things. But this little pouch that the man would wear is not called a malbush, because it's just really protecting his clothes from becoming soiled. And therefore, that's considered a masu, unless it's a proper item of clothing. If he ties a piece of cloth, a psila shall cover with some sort of protection at the end or something, kadei lekanech be'enov, to wipe his eyes, also that's also not allowed. Malbush, but if it's however tied and it's considered an item of clothing, that would be okay. It's properly considered an item of clothing from both the back and the front. It's almost like an item of underwear. To given the derech malbush muta b'chol gavni, since it's considered derech malbush, that would be okay. But if this piece of cloth is just at the front, or just at the back, also that's not considered sufficiently tied to constitute. It's not called a malbush, and therefore it would be also. Shelo yichav. That it shouldn't fall on her body, and it might disturb her and cause a distress. Since it's preventing pain, even if it also prevents tinuf, soiling, then it will be okay. Derech malbushu, this is considered an item of clothing. So there's a couple of very interesting things, because let's take a look at 39. The first point to make is, sometimes you have a person, they're suffering from incontinence, and therefore they need to wear some sort of pads, or almost like a diaper, like a nappy. What about wearing that on Shabbos? So if you look at 39, it says, he has incontinence, titul, some sort of nappy or diaper, das hagonim nisman karelets, shekivin shatitul soivev eskufa, since it sort of surrounds his body, nechshafu derech malbush, it's considered an item of clothing, even though it's really to protect his clothes from becoming soiled, still it's considered an item of clothing. And so too, like some sort of apron that a woman wears in the kitchen to prevent her clothes from being soiled. Milifnim, even if it's just on the front of her, that's the apron. And that's the way you wear it. So a woman who wears an apron to protect her clothes from getting soiled, that is considered a malbush, and therefore there's no problem. Now, I'll tell you what's fascinating is what about sanitary towels and things like that for a woman to wear, for a niddah to wear? Now that's a big discussion. So he's got a footnote, but let me just read to you from here, the Shabbos Home, Simcha Bunim Kohen, a brilliant series of Sfarim. I'll just read you a paragraph, the summary, what he brings with Moshe. As noted above, it is permitted to wear articles whose function is to prevent physical discomfort. That's exactly what we've just said in the Mishnah Berurah. This includes, for example, sanitary napkins, nursing pads, and underarm shields, which protect the wearer from discomfort by absorbing secretions. However, such articles cannot be considered bona fide garments, and accordingly they may only be worn to prevent discomfort, but not for any other purpose. Thus, Hagan Moshe Feinstein Zatzal ruled that it's forbidden for a woman to wear a sanitary napkin outdoors during the final part of her period, where her secretions are very light, her discharges are very light, if there is no risk of discomfort, and the napkin serves only to protect her undergarments from being soiled. So if it's to protect your goof, then that's okay. But if it's just to protect your clothing, then not. And therefore, towards the end of the period, where the secretions are going to be much lighter, and therefore it's not about personal discomfort, it's about just protecting the undergarments, so then that's a problem. However, this does not apply to adhesive sanitary napkins. Since these are attached to the underwear, they may be worn at all times. Thus, if a woman who is at the end of her period wishes to go outdoors on Shabbos, she should wear either an adhesive napkin or several pairs of undergarments which serve the same effect. Similarly, a woman should not wear nursing pads or underarm shields outdoors in instances where they are not needed to prevent physical discomfort, but only to protect clothing. Okay, so it's halacha l'maaseh. It's interesting. Not everyone is aware of this. Again, if there's an Eruv, then it's a Shayl and Hotzos, and then it's not a problem. Okay, Yud Dalet. Dova shehu derech malbush. Something which is an item of clothing. Afilu im eina loivshe ele mishum atzulei tinov. Even if you're only wearing it to prevent your clothes being soiled, mutar lot seis b'Shabbos. You can wear that on Shabbos. V'lachein mutar lilbosh beged mipnei hagashomim oikova al roshe. So you're wearing a raincoat. You're wearing it ultimately so that your suit doesn't get dirty. Or you're wearing a rain hat, so that your hat doesn't get soiled. But for a woman to put something over her head covering, that's not allowed. Okay, says the Mishnah Berurah, Nun Beis. You're wearing it above your clothes so that the clothes won't get spoiled or soiled. And that which the Ramah says later, beged mipnei hagashomim oikova, hainu gamken afilu shemoisef lilbosh beged lemilmalo levgodov rak mipnei hagashomim. If the only reason why you're wearing this coat is to protect your suit and your other clothes from becoming wet, that's okay. And even if it wasn't raining, you wouldn't go out with this item. Could go into beged of v'gas ma'id kasak v'chein kova. You're wearing like another sort of protection on your hat above that. Why? The rule is, if the thing is considered an item of clothing, then you're okay. So if I want to wear a coat on top of it, for example, sometimes you can wear like a heavier coat on Shabbos, and then you've got this raincoat. The very thin. What's it called? Shana coat. Okay, so I bought my one in Manchester. That's where they sell them, I think. Go to Newcastle for Coles and Manchester for Shana coats. And so wearing that's got a din of a malbush. So wearing that over your coat, that's also okay because it's got a din malbush. Now,
what about plastic bag?
Oh, very good. So take a look at 44.
It's an expensive strammel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it depends how expensive the strammel is, right? So. What? Yeah, well, let's take a look. Let's 43. So, first of all, he says 43. Velotzeis b'minil geshem, some sort of raincoat. Ha'osu min nylon. Rak b'shekol matrosa rak lahogin al begodov shelo yutva min geshem ve'inu mecham v'saguf klal. Das hakon Rishon Zaman Orach. He says shegam zen nikra derech malbush mutar lotzeis imoi. So, although there are slightly different opinions about this, but Rav Shlomo Zalman certainly says this has got a din of a malbush, and therefore it's okay. And then now about the hat covers. If you look at 44, he says it's very interesting. Velotzes im kisu nylon al kova mipnei hagashomim, to put some sort of hat protection on. Das hachazan ish. She'osa, it's not allowed. V'chein, because that is just to protect your hat. It's not to protect you. It's not considered a malbush, this sort of plastic cover or nylon cover. V'chein kos v'shad shuvas min chatz yitzchak in the Orach Tzion. She'ein hakisu nechshav derech malbush. U'memela also lot esimei letzorech hatzolas tinuf hakova. Because if it's not called a malbush, then it's considered carrying. V'chein das ha'gam karelitz. ובשאר ישוב מנחס יצחק היסף שהם לא יבש סקיסו כדי שהכובע לא ירטב לגמרי ויחד ומי גשם לראשי נחשב את לביש הזו כצורך מניעס צורך הגוף מטרס. So if you're worried that your strimal or your hat is going to get so saturated that actually it's going to come through to your head, so then that would be okay. But however, look at the next paragraph. ובשאר ישוב זיגרוס מוישה כוסף שעושה לוצס עם כיסו כובע. Ach mitamache. He says also for a different reason. Shledaita ein nechshav derech malbush ele dova hamoisif kisu v'hagona leguf. Ve'ilu tzipu hakova ein mogen ala guf. Yosim hakova atzmai. It's not protecting you. It's not protecting the guf, and it's not. For a Moshe, the definition of a malbush is it's protecting the body or it's providing warmth, and the hat cover is neither. So v'hutlot says bekova al gabi kova. But he was, and the heter to wear a kova al gabi kova, which is what the Ramah talks about. He says that's only if the out of the sort of the second hat is larger than the first one. So then, if it protects the head in any way, then it's got a din of a malbush, and then it would be okay. Now here, what about those of us who do wear a hat cover? Or I actually don't. I haven't got one, but you do see people wearing it. Meidach das agon Shlomo Zalman Auerbach shebekoyim shein makbidim lahosir sakisu miyad kasheposek hageshem. There are people. It's that's just, they keep it on. You have a strimal cover and they don't take it off when the rain stops. Mutalot zeisimoy shekim sheosu hu b'midas hakova umuhuduk elov heitev, says Shlomo Zalman, since it's made to measure, it's the same size as the hat or the strimal, and it fits in very well. Bottle hu lekova v'nechshav derech malbush. It's considered the derech malbush. Achim regilim lahasirut miyad kasheposek hageshem ein los esim elishus rabin gemura. Okay, if you normally take it off as soon as the rain stops, then don't go into Rishus Rabin Gemara. So rain hats on Shabbos are problematic. There are matirim. Rav Shlomo Zalman is matir. Certainly, if it's made to measure and it fits directly on the hat, or if it's slightly larger and it's protecting your head a bit more, then that would, I suppose, Ramosha would allow that. Okay, let's continue. Beged al tzeifa, says the Mishnah Berurah Nun Gimel. Hainu im eina derech malbush. If it's not considered derech malbush, rak shemunach al reisha levad. Like some nylon, a small piece of cloth. Then have a derech malbush. But if it's protecting her body in any way, then it's got a din of a malbush. V'shari afshu lat suli tinuf, and they're wearing this sort of headscarf would be okay. Kamoshi kosov le'el. V'afridim hu beged gorua kasak, even if it's like a sort of poor material. V'shari af la'ashiros, even wealthy people. Kimin dalanias chozi choshev gam la'ashiros malbush. So if it's got a status of clothing for poor people, then it's also considered the status of a malbush for wealthier people. Nun daled the ein zeh derech malbush, we said. So for wearing this woman to put a sort of a cloth on top of her head, it's not considered derech malbush, and therefore it's a problem. If it's, however, that the rain shouldn't affect her, her hair shouldn't get wet. Shari b'chol inyan af shemeilen itzeles al yedei zemitin ufbegodeha bilvad shetiskrena yof. As long as she ties it on properly. So even though it serves the purpose of protecting her clothes, but also if it stops her getting wet, then it's got the status of a malbush, and therefore that would be okay. Malbush valkein also leish lechasas hakava whatever that is patshela. So okay, so that's really head coverings on Shabbos. Not so straightforward. and so wearing a raincoat. So long as it's got a din of a malbush, then you're okay. So a sort of a thick, or even a nylon, a very thin coat over your coat or over your thing, just to protect your clothes getting wet, that would be okay because the actual thing has got a status of a malbush. Anything which is there either to protect to protect you or for warmth, that would be okay. All right, the test of is a very short one. Let's quickly do that. Tesvov ein hakitea yoytze bekav sheloi. So a person never who is an amputee, yoytze bekav sheloi. He's allowed to go out with his prosthetic. That means he fashions a leg, and then he puts the sort of the stump of his thigh into it. He's not using it to walk. He still needs his cane, his stick. That they won't see that he's an amputee. Since that is not affecting or enabling his walking, therefore it would be also for an amputee to go out with this prosthetic. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, Kiven de'enoi hainu da'alkein chayshinan dilma mishtalif miragle v'osil asuli daladamas. And the concern is that it might slip off and he might come to carry it in daladamas. Okay, well, we'll talk more about the amputee tomorrow, Mr. Shem. That's in Tez Zayin.